Let's stay with the story and speak to SABC News International editor Sophie Mokoena, who's joining us live now. Sophie, thank you so much for your time. I mean, what's the latest regarding the warrant of arrest?
Well, clearly the International Criminal Court is still mum. I tried earlier on because I did get the contact in terms of the chief prosecutor, but the chief prosecutor didn't respond to questions, and therefore the fact that the International Criminal Court is not denying these allegations, and the fact that these allegations emanates from the media, particularly the state media in Israel, clearly Israel is fully aware, and that is why there are also reports that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has requested the United States of America to impose sanctions against International Criminal Court officials should that warrant of arrest be issued for him. And therefore it means something is happening. It started in the same way when that warrant of arrest was issued for the Russian President Vladimir Putin, and therefore we will be watching this week what's likely going to happen. But the reality is the fact that there's no denial and the ICC is mum, something is happening, because we know that for quite some time, the International Criminal Court has been investigating the atrocities in Palestine that are meted by Israel, but also investigating Hamas. The second issue is that you know that South Africa last year, before going to the International Court of Justice, South Africa did present the matter to the International Criminal Court. Now, the challenge here is that Israel is not a member of the International Criminal Court, neither is the United States of America. But this is how it works. If you commit those atrocities in a country that is a signatory to the ICC, then your troops or the generals or people who issued instructions can be investigated by the International Criminal Court, as it did happen with Americans in Afghanistan. You know that that's when America even imposed sanctions on the chief prosecutor, that he can't even travel to the United States of America, and other prosecutors. You know, one was from Lesotho, and they were not allowed to enter the United States of America. So there's a possibility that definitely the story will develop before the end of the week.
And of course, looking at what, even the international community is saying as well, and also Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just a few days ago on X saying that in part, under my leadership, Israel will never accept any attempt by the ICC to undermine its inherent right of self-defense. While the ICC will not affect Israel's actions, it would set a dangerous precedent that threatens the soldiers and officials of all democracies fighting savage terrorism and wanton aggression. I wonder then, in the context of what he has said and what we've seen, come out in different media reports in the last couple of days, what has the international community said about these developments?
There has not been any reaction from the international community, except in a situation where media would try and ask officials, as we did with the spokesperson of the presidency, but him also saying they don't have information, but they will support the international law. You know, South Africa is a signatory to the International Criminal Court, the Rome Statute, and therefore if there's a warrant against or for Benjamin Netanyahu, it means a country such as South Africa, he can't travel to that country. Or members of Hamas, if there are warrant of arrest for officials, members of Hamas, they can't now travel to South Africa. That's what South Africa is expected to do. And therefore, other members of the ICC will have to do the same. And therefore, it will limit the movement and the lobbying. And secondly, the directive from the International Criminal Court will be binding to all countries that are members of the International Criminal Court, particularly members who have signed the Rome Statute. With South Africa, it gets even more complicated because we have domesticated the Rome Statute, and therefore it limits the traveling of officials who will be receiving these warrants, and therefore that's the only thing that the ICC can do. But in terms of the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, Israel is a member, and you know that they did sign to that convention, the Genocide Convention, because it was established after the World War II, and you know that the Jews were victims in this case, and therefore it is a separate process. But the United States of America is also not part of the International Court of Criminal Court, ICC, and therefore, as they have done previously to threaten and impose sanctions on investigators and so the chief prosecutor, including other prosecutors, I think Israel is trying to lobby the US, the ally, to threaten the court not to even take a move by saying, please impose sanctions should that warrant be issued against the Prime Minister of Israel.
And Sophie, should it happen, how much of a rebuke would this be for Israel, given their response to what has been going on the ground?
Well, unfortunately, I don't know whether it will make any impact, because when you look at how Israel has conducted itself, it has defied all the international law. All the international laws that are there, that are supposed to protect other countries against other countries, Israel took a decision to defy. You know that the International Court of Justice issued measures in terms of protecting civilians, but Israel didn't implement. Its bombardment is continuing. As we speak, there's escalation of a bombardment on Rafah, and even including the camps where you have refugees and people are dying. And it looks like this ICC story has kind of propelled Israel to be even more aggressive in terms of its military operations. And therefore, I don't see Israel pulling back, but the countries that are members of ICC will have to punish Israel should the ICC issue that arrest warrant for the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. And therefore, the credibility of the country is becoming even more dented. And also the allies will also be affected, such as the United States of America, who have been supplying arms.
All right, it'll be interesting to see then how the story develops during the course of the week. But thank you so much for that update. That is SABC News International Editor, Sophie Mokoena.